Greetings. My name's Peter Sherlock. I'm the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Divinity. It's my honour to launch a new project at the university called COVID Revelations. In 2020, the coronavirus pandemic has swept the world, causing harm to untold hundreds of thousands of human lives. The university's response to this pandemic is founded on its vision statement, that together we empower our learning community to address the issues of the contemporary world through critical engagement with Christian theological traditions. Realising that vision statement has never been more important. The university's response to the coronavirus is built on the idea that we must do more than simply reflect and describe what has happened, but that in the medium to long term, we need to assist people around the world to rebuild their lives, to find new ways of being community that take into account three factors. First, what has been disclosed by the pandemic? How have human societies operated? How have their flaws, their opportunities, their benefits been realised in this time? Second, what do we discern about the pandemic and what it has disclosed? How do we bring the tools of theology? How do we understand love of God and love of neighbour at this time? And finally, what is the action that's required of us? What is our duty? And so through these three themes, disclosure, discernment, duty, I invite you to join with the rest of the University of Divinity, with our friends and with our neighbours in responding to this pandemic.
Hi everyone, my name's Sean Winter and I'm a member of the COVID-19 Theology Task Group at the university. In an article at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic that was published on the ABC Religion and Ethics site, Catherine Keller and John Thatamaniel asked a set of questions that surely lie at the centre of any kind of theological reflection on the events of recent months. They asked, quote, "What does this pandemic unveil? What have we refused to see about ourselves and the precarious world that we've built, a world that now stands exposed and tottering in the harsh light of this unasked for revelation," end quote. Their article is entitled, "Is this an apocalypse? Question mark. We certainly hope so." The COVID-19 Revelations project that we have developed picks up on the idea that the notion of apocalyptic, that language of unveiling, of revelation, of disclosure, provides us not just with a helpful way of thinking about what has been happening in our world and in our own communities, but also indicates something of the kind of theological work and ethical responsibility that should arise from those events. Responsibilities that particularly relate to the vision of this university. Of course, the idea of revelation and apocalyptic is an idea heavy with biblical and theological antecedents. The book of Revelation that closes the New Testament is an invitation to look into an open heaven in order to discern the truth about human history and experience and the truth about God. It's a text that, as Keith Dyer has shown in his presentation to this year's research conference, constitutes a call to action on the basis of specific claims about the nature of God's saving purposes in Jesus Christ. As Keith puts it, it is a matter of seeing, voicing, and doing. The COVID-19 Revelations project is an invitation to the community of the University of Divinity to undertake equivalent kinds of theological work for these circumstances and in our own times.
So you've been challenged to develop a new research project, but how are you going to get there? What we're going to do in the next few minutes is to look at some of the pillars that we've recognized are part of developing a research project. The first thing we need to think about is, do we have an idea? That idea might be very basic at the moment, and that idea is going to develop and possibly change as you come into interaction with the other aspects that we're going to talk about. We've asked you to think about this as a collaborative research project. You can have a brilliant idea, but a project is not going to work unless there's high trust between the members that are involved in the project. The moment can also be very critical to the project. You can have a brilliant idea, you can have a great team, but if the moment isn't right and the project doesn't speak to something that's considered to be currently relevant, then your project may not get off the ground. Another aspect is think about need. This is slightly different from the moment. Need is about your stakeholders, people who might actually benefit from the project. Is there a need out there in the community that challenges you and encourages you and supports you to develop the project that you want to develop? And this relates then to the environment. Do you actually have a supportive environment in which you can carry out this project? That might mean an institution, a college, or the university supplying funding or helping you with developing that project or carrying out the project. It might mean also that the stakeholders that are involved in this project might be asked to provide data and other things that you need to carry out the project. So the environment is quite critical to the project. Experience is another really important aspect. We can have a brilliant idea, the moment can be right, the stakeholders might be wanting to do it, and the environment might be supportive, but our experience may tell us from past experience with those stakeholders or with the environment or with a granting body, for instance, that in fact you're not going to get funding for that project, or it might be the experience that drives you to reframe your project in a particular way because you know or have learned that that way of framing the project is likely to have greater success. And this brings us to money. Most projects aren't going to succeed unless there's some way to fund them. It may be that there's a grant available, or part of it may be looking for a grant that might be amenable to the kind of project that you want to do. So you may again need to shape your idea and your project, including your team, to suit a very particular grant. In the end, if you think about all of these different aspects, you're likely to have a successful project. But bear in mind that you'll start with an idea, perhaps, or you may start with a grant opportunity and go, okay, what idea have I got that's going to fit into that grant? All of these aspects interact with each other. None of them are going to bring you to a successful project on their own. All of them need to fall into place if your project is to be successful.